New disturbing details of a Christmas Day tragedy on the Nature Coast. Bodies of two missing divers, a father and son, have been recovered.
On Christmas Day in 2013, a father and his 15-year-old son set out to bond over a shared passion, diving. It was supposed to be a day of exploration and adventure, a chance to unwrap the beauty of Eagle's Nest Sink, an underwater cave known as the Mount Everest of diving. But instead of celebration, Christmas became for them a fight for survival as their oxygen supply ran out over 230 feet deep inside one of the most treacherous caves. This is the tragic story of Darrin and Dylan. Before Christmas, 35-year-old Darrin Spivey and his 15-year-old son Dylan Sanchez got new diving gear as Christmas presents. Both father and son, natives of Brooksville, were excited to try out their new gear for the first time. They couldn't wait to get wet, and so picked Christmas Day for an unforgettable adventure. The teenager, an outdoorsy kid and a member of a junior ROTC program, was not a certified diver, but he was really passionate about diving like his father. He had read many diving materials, and he and his father have done some diving drills together. But this is where it gets crazy. You see, while his father, a roofer by occupation, had been diving for 9 years and was a certified diver, he was not a certified cave diver. In fact, he hadn't taken any cave diving course yet, even though his friend Robert Brooks, a certified cave diver, had asked him to. Nevertheless, Darrin had a knack for adventure and testing his limits, something Brooks had warned him against. So, when on Christmas Day in 2013, Darrin and his son took their new diving gear for testing, one would expect they were going for a simple dive. However, after the father kissed his fiancée, Holly King, and his other two kids goodbye, he drove his son to a cave, but not just any cave. Located 60 miles north of Tampa in Florida is the Eagle Nest Sink Cave in Hernando County. This cave is 300 feet deep and can only be explored by experienced cavers. This cave is known as the Grand Canyon and Mount Everest of diving. Aquaviews.net, a diving site, describes it as, quote, one of the top 3 extreme dives in the world. Located in Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, close to the notorious Weeki Wachee Springs, the only divers allowed here were those with full cave certification, a Trimix ticket, and experience with deep cave dives. There is also a sign that forewarns of life-threatening conditions, and since 1981, many experienced cave divers have unfortunately lost their lives there. This was not a diving site for any novice diver by every indication, but this was exactly where Darrin took his son for their first cave diving experience together. But that morning, when the father pulled up his car at the cave's entrance, it didn't look like they had arrived at what was described as one of the most dangerous caves in the world. From outside, it was a calm, circularly shaped, swampy pond surrounded by animal sounds and pine trees. Darrin and his kid had been here on multiple occasions, but today was different. Today, they were going inside the cave. They were super excited and cared little about the mosquitoes and ticks that attacked them once they got out of their car. Their smiles were wide and their anticipation palpable. It wasn't every Christmas Day that people were fortunate enough to experience such adventure. After suiting up, the father and his son dove into the waters at around 11 a.m. They successfully descended the 6-foot-wide tubular entrance, which resembles a chimney that drops down at least 70 feet. This tube leads to a huge cave room, the size of an aircraft hangar, known as the ballroom. Here, there is nothing but total blackness. But Darrin and his son were equipped with lights, and what their lights revealed was unbelievable. It felt like they had been transported into another world, or maybe even out of space. On the floor of the ballroom was a huge debris cone that sloped downward in 2 ways. One led down an upstream tunnel, and the other down a downstream tunnel. Hence, another sign lay amongst the debris which forewarned divers. The sign literally says, "Stop, prevent your own death," Go no further. But they didn't stop. Instead, they went further, swimming past the ballroom's entrance and into one of Eagle Nest's infamous narrow tunnels. These tunnels are claustrophobic, winding, and deceptive, only navigable by divers with years of experience and the right tools. However, for the inexperienced father and son, the dive initially went well. Darrin and Dylan descended into the clear blue waters of Eagle's Nest, marveling at the intricate limestone walls and the silence. But as they ventured deeper, the pressure around them increased, and the clock on their oxygen supply began ticking faster. By the time they descended to a depth of 233 feet, the effects of nitrogen narcosis had begun to set in as they ran out of air. At such depths, breathing compressed air alone became dangerous. The high concentration of nitrogen in the air can act as a sedative, causing confusion. In their altered mental state, Darrin and Dylan didn't immediately realize how quickly their situation was deteriorating. Their air supplies were running low, their bodies were absorbing dangerous levels of nitrogen, and they were far from the surface. At this depth, every decision matters. A wrong turn, a slight delay, or a misplaced guideline can seal your fate. And for Darrin and Dylan, their inexperience left them vulnerable to the cave's many traps. Realizing their oxygen was dangerously low, Darrin and Dylan decided to turn back. But by then, it was already too late. Navigating the narrow tunnels back to the ballroom was a challenge in itself. Disoriented and panicking, they struggled to locate the path that led to the ballroom. But things got even worse as Dylan's air supply ran out first. So in a desperate attempt to survive, he signaled to his father for help. Darrin's air supply was also dropping low fast, but he knew he had to save his son. So, in a desperate, heroic effort, he connected a long hose from his tank to his son's regulator. This meant that his oxygen supply would go down faster, but it didn't matter if it meant his boy would make it out alive. Unfortunately, his oxygen supply eventually ran out, and both father and son were left with one last chance of survival. It was an impossible feat, but they made it to the ballroom. This didn't help matters, though, because the father soon lost consciousness and sank to the depths of the ballroom. Dylan, left with no air and no partner, made a desperate attempt to ascend, but he was making it close to the tubular entrance when he unfortunately blacked out as well. Back home, Holly King called her fiancé's phone several times with no answer. She tried her son's phone too, but still she got only voicemail. Worried, she called some of her friends and family who might know what was wrong with her son and fiancé. But she didn't stop there. She drove to Eagle Nest, and there she found her fiancé's car parked near the river's bank. Desperate, she dove in without any gear. Inside, she gave a quick scan of the cave's entrance and found nothing. She quickly resurfaced and called the sheriff's office at 7:30 p.m. When police arrived at Eagle's Nest in the evening, they quickly kicked off the investigation. While inspecting the area, they met a hunter who admitted to seeing father and son suiting up for a dive at 11 a.m. The hunter revealed that when he was done hunting at 6:30 p.m., he didn't find them in sight, but he still met Darrin's car idling where it was parked in the morning. The police knew something terrible had happened, so 3 cave diving experts, Matthew Vincent, Eric Deester, and Darrin's friend Robert Brooks, were soon alerted. He arrived in time and entered the cave at 8:30 p.m. He had been inside the cave system a couple of times before, so it was easy for him to navigate. A few moments after descending the chimney, he found the 15-year-old's body hanging near the roof of the ballroom, 67 feet into the cave. This indicated that Dylan had almost made it out of the cave alive before he unfortunately lost consciousness. As for his father, his body wasn't found until the other expert divers arrived. Darrin Spivey's body was later found 127 feet on the ballroom floor. Brooks, who had just lost his friend, admitted that both divers were tragically unprepared for the dive. They lacked the specialized gas mixture needed to combat nitrogen narcosis and to safely decompress at such depths. If you found this story interesting, Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.